What's happening, lads? Welcome back to the Cop Logic channel. As you can see, it's this fella doing the match preview this time, not the Cop Goth. But to save you too much emotional trauma, I've tried to keep this as accurate to Cop Goth's match previews as possible. I even stole his music. But don't fret, don't worry, we're going to be talking about exactly the same stuff that we normally talk about. We're going to look at our opponent's last 5 games, we're going to look at our last 5 games, match predictions, lineup predictions. So don't worry, calm down, we're all good. So let's have a look at how Wolves have started the Premier League season to start us off. So on the opening game week, they played Man United and they had a 1-0 loss, which, to be fair, I remember that game, that probably should have been a draw. There was definitely a penalty in there that wasn't given, so they probably would have scored that penalty and made it 1-1. I didn't watch the game in its entirety, but I heard a lot of people say that their midfield in that game was very dominant and very good. But that also could just be because of how Man United set up. I believe they were still trying a midfield 3 of Mason Mount, who's not hit the ground running, Casemiro, who was a bit solitude. I can't remember who their third one was, be it Eriksen or Bruno, probably Bruno, but I don't think it was a very, sit-back midfield, so there was just Casemiro's getting overrun the whole time. But anyway, the next game week, they hosted Brighton, who beat them 4-1. They did have a red card, but that was for Matheus Nunes, so that's not going to affect us in any way because he's now gone to City. And they picked up their first win against Everton at Goodison Park. That finished 1-0. They then subsequently lost to Crystal Palace, which was 3-2. I can't say I saw it, but it looks like it was a very tight game. So overall, 1 win and 4 with 3 losses, and a goal difference of -4. So they've scored 4, but they've conceded 8. So not a great start to them, which is probably why, as you can see on the predictions at the bottom here, Wolves have only a 14% chance of winning. But I won't rule out that they could give us some problems if they still play how they used to play when they had Nuno Espirito Santo, because they liked to play deep and play very behind the ball, which doesn't really suit us very well. We don't do well with that. Now, maybe our new midfielders will help us unlock that kind of weakness, but, I'd still say we should comfortably win, but I'm not just going to rule out that it should be an absolute domination and an absolute thrashing. So if we turn our attention to how our form was, we had that 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge, which, considering we were quite fragile and we were in the midst of a bit of a PR disaster, as well as, the team not really having settled in comfortably and playing away from home, I think ended up looking like a bit of a good draw. And we were like a whisker away from actually winning it with a Mo Salah offside goal. We then hosted Bournemouth, where we beat them 3-1, which did look pretty scrappy because of the Alexis McAllister red card, but I actually think we settled the game down after that anyway. Similar story when we went to St James's Park. We didn't look great at first. Trent could have even had a red card early doors, and Van Dijk did end up getting a red card, but as soon as that red card happened, we managed to settle it and rein it back in and keep their attack is quiet, but we also managed to stick on our Lord and Saviour Darwin Núñez, who managed to rescue the game for us and not only get 1 point, but got us all 3. We then hosted Aston Villa, where we beat them 3-0, and I would say pretty comfortably from what I remember. I remember a couple spells in the game where they were a bit dominant, but overall I'd say we comfortably won that game, and the benefit there being no red card. Also, can I just mention that Szoboszlai goal? The way the ball just floated into the net, oh my god, I was in bits. So we've got 3 wins and a draw in 4 games. We've scored 9 goals and we've conceded 3. So overall, pretty solid stats there. A pretty healthy goal difference, not too fragile. And to be honest, not too weak at the back considering how it feels. Obviously, it took a centre-back partnership of Matip and Gomez to get us our first clean sheet. But ultimately, I think conceding 3 goals isn't too bad considering what we were dealing with last year. We sit on a obviously very healthy 10 points there, 3rd in the Premier League table as it stands at the moment. There is the extra where we are playing at Molineux rather than at Anfield, but overall I think we should still dominate them, especially because during the international period we've just been in, all of our players have looked in fine form. Every single one of them has played well, and I love that because I love watching them do well for not only us but also for their international teams. But I do believe that the international duties will have an effect on the lineup that we see on Saturday because it is a 12:30 kickoff and because it's right after the international period. So I do think there will be some changes. So let's just get into the lineup and we'll talk about them as and when. I've obviously gone for Alisson Becker between the posts. This man is just, if he's fit, he's in the team. Not only did he have a great game against Newcastle, but he also had an amazing save against Aston Villa when, for most of that match, he was pretty much doing nothing. It was the one where Matty Cash headed it at, near enough the 6-yard box. and he prevented it from going over the line by pushing it away. So ultimately, he's in the team. I don't think anyone has an issue with this, and if you do, sort yourself out. Now, for the fullback duo, I've gone for Trent and for Robbo. I do know Trent was injured before going on this international break, and I believe he was expected to be back for this game. Plus, I probably would have said we might still play it safe and play someone like Gomez at right back, save him getting thrown back in after an injury, but I don't really think we've got the options to be able to do that because our right back options are just either Trent or Gomez, and that's it. And I think Gomez is actually going to play as a centre back in this game as well, so I don't think he's going to be deployed from that right back position. I think we'll just try and see if Trent can play again. And for Robbo, it's pretty self-explanatory. He had a great international break, and even without that, he probably would have gone in anyway. But obviously, having great performances for your international team will obviously help because you're full of confidence, you're full of, motivation, you want to get going again, you want to continue your form. In the first game Scotland played, he scored an absolute banger of a goal, I'm not going to lie. And in the second game, I know he gave the ball away to Jude Bellingham, who ultimately scored from it, but I think in the second half, his performances definitely increased way beyond what we were expecting him to in that game. In fact, he was actually the one responsible for Scotland's goal in that game. I know it was Harry Maguire on goal, but it was Robbo who was operating from that right wing role that got the own goal, or forced Harry Maguire to make the own goal. And he put endless crosses in and all that, and he was just great all around for Scotland in the international break. And it was actually quite close. I was thinking maybe Tsimikas will come in. Tsimikas himself had a great international break, and he was actually like top of the dribbles for players in the Euro qualifiers. But I just think Robbo gets in if he's in any decent form. So he's in the team. So for the centre-back partnership, I have gone with Konate and Joe Gomez. That is because of Virgil van Dijk's extension to his red card because of dissent on the referee, which, if you ask me, was a complete and utter load of bullshit. But nonetheless, it's been extended, so we're going to have to find a different partnership. I've gone with Konate and Gomez. Konate, if he's fit, arguably our best centre-back on form right now. I think it's a no-brainer. If he's available, he's in the team. And Gomez, out of Gomez and Matip, he's our best centre-back. In fact, actually, I was pretty proud of Gomez's return to form recently. He's definitely stepped up in Virgil and Konate's absence, and he's actually looked way more sure of himself than he has done in last season. So I think while he's still in that position where he can play, I've played quite well. We should be using him as much as possible, and I think it'd be the perfect opportunity to get him some game time, especially with Konate being back. Fingers crossed. Taking that DM role, I have predicted that Curtis Jones will be in there. I think he played a decent game against Aston Villa. He didn't start in that number 6 role, but I think between Endo playing international games during the break, Thiago not really being able to come in and fill that role up because he's probably coming back from a long-term injury if he's even available. And I suppose you could maybe argue the case that Gravenberg could get in, but I think because of his freshness to the team and having limited training sessions with the whole team, he probably won't start a game this soon in. And I think of our remaining midfielders, we'll probably stick in Jones. Maybe Bajcetic would get a game because I believe he did go away on international break, but I don't think we'll throw him back into a Premier League game this quick either. So I'll put my money on Jones. Plus, Jones was on the official Liverpool graphic on Twitter, and that's usually a sign he's going to start. So that's who my money's on. Now, I know this midfield looks mad, right? But hear me out. I do have a reason for this, and I think Elliott actually does get in over McAllister. Not because of ability, but because on Wednesday, McAllister was with Argentina playing Bolivia. And if you don't know, Bolivia is quite high up in the mountains. It's quite a strenuous place to go and play football. And usually they have to come out having oxygen tanks or, inhalers keeping them going. And it actually got so bad that they didn't even include Messi in the squad. He was there, but he didn't actually even get benched. He was just not included. And I think McAllister played a decent amount of minutes in that game and actually played it pretty well. So I wouldn't be entirely surprised if he was absolutely knackered after that game. And with it being Wolves, we might take that opportunity to play some of our younger players as well as rest him a little bit. So that's my reasoning for Elliott getting in over McAllister. It's not because I want to be different or anything. I just think he might be knackered because Bolivia is a hard place to go and play football. There's always pictures of players having oxygen tanks and respirators and all shit like that. So ultimately he's going to be rested for this game. Might be brought on as a sub, who knows, but I would say we'd probably start. It could honestly be Elliott, it could be Bajcetic if he's fit enough. I'd say purely because he's only played games as a sub and he didn't have an international break, but probably start Harvey Elliott over him. But hopefully we can see McAllister just slot in straight from the get-go and dominate from the word go. For the left and right wing of the attack, we've got Luis Diaz and Mo Salah. I don't think there's any real surprises here. Yeah, there's not really much more to say. They both played games, but so did everyone else in their position that's good enough to start. So they're in. Now, don't hate me, but I have put in Jota as the striker. And not because I don't rate Darwin Núñez. If he's fit, he starts for me. And I say if he's fit because there was rumours floating about on Twitter and on social media that he might have been brought off for Uruguay because of a potential muscle injury. So if that's true, then I think Jota or Gakpo could start here. Both played great games for their national teams. Jota having scored 2 goals and gained himself an assist in his last game against Luxembourg. And Cody Gakpo was 2 for 2 in his games. So I think ultimately they both had great international breaks. And with potential fears that Darwin did pick up an injury during the break, then we might just play it safe and go with one of those two. But if Darwin Núñez is fit, I think he starts. And I would love him to start as well. I don't think Wolves particularly have a quick or rapid backline, so I think we could definitely exploit that with Darwin Núñez. But yeah, that's my prediction. It's a bit of a mad shout, but I think ultimately between McAllister having played some tough games for Argentina, and us still probably being able to rely on Szoboszlai, we'll be able to put Harvey Elliott in that starting role because he has had performances, but none to start yet. And those performances where he's come on as a sub, I think he's played really well. So I think we'll probably reward him for that and start him in this game. So that is my predicted lineup. And I'm going to get into the score predictions now. I'm going to say that we're away at Molineux. They're not doing great for goal threat right now. I can't really think of who they're... Maybe Hwang Hee-Chan is their most prolific at the minute, or at least most on form. I'm going to say we're going to settle this with a 2-0. All of our players during the international break have looked in fine form, especially the attackers. And I think between Gomez and Kanate as a centre-back pairing, that will be solid enough to keep us a clean sheet. So I'm going to say 2-0. I would love to come away with all 3 points from this game and keep our fine form and our unbeaten run going, because ultimately we are in an unbeaten run so far this season. I know this will be game week 5, but I'm counting it. So let's keep it going and let's keep the pressure on. But yeah, let me know what your guys' predictions are, and if you agree or disagree with my starting lineup, drop a comment down there. And while you're down there, make sure you like the video and subscribe and notifications on. Got plenty of video ideas coming your way soon, so even though the transfer window is done, we've still got some videos in store for you all. So make sure you stick around for that, and I will see you guys in the next one. In a bit, lads.